Hello, everybody. I'm Rob. He's Nick. This is the LCS report. And yes, we are back for episode 2. We're going to be talking a lot about the first week of action in the LCS. But before that, I always got to ask you, Nick, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Dude, I couldn't be better. I get to talk league with my guy. I'm so excited about being able to do that. I normally
Yeah.
have done these shows by myself, so this is a treat for me.
Oh, yeah. Likewise. Looking forward to another season, like I said, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it with you.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. And we've got a lot to get through today, so we may rush through things. If you would like to hear from us more, you can go find us on the Twitterverse. I believe that we're gonna be, I think, pretty active there, at least on the weekends. So we'll put the I guess we'll put the accounts in the description below, so you guys can check it out. And please say nice things to us. If you say mean things to us, we're gonna block you. Okay, that's just how it works. So uh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You can say mean things. Just don't be too mean. Okay, we're fragile people sometimes. But we're gonna move on, and we're gonna start. I guess I'll spend 2 more seconds telling you this. We're gonna talk about our awards first. We're gonna be then jumping into our power rankings, and then our picks for week 1, and then we'll be going into our final section, which will just be who we think is gonna win the LCS in the spring split, so that you guys can come back here and then definitely make fun of us when we are ultimately wrong. Hopefully not, though. Let's start with the first award. I want to talk about the Rookie of the Split. Nick, who do you have winning Rookie of the Split?
Man, this is tough. I don't think it's quite as uh, clear cut as it was last year. I
Okay.
think that if I just to throw it out there, I think that I'm gonna have to give it to Masu, though.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it would be between Masu and Meech for me, and I think that Masu is on a team that can compete more now, and will therefore give him more of an opportunity to impress. I think, and I think that his strengths that he showed in the before his LCS debut in the NACL. I do think that if that FlyQuest roster clicks, he could be a really big linchpin for them.
No, I completely agree. I was between him and actually the one that I'm going to end up picking, which is Sniper. Now, to be completely clear, most of the time, well, not most of the time. Recently, they haven't been doing a Rookie of the Split. They've been doing a Rookie of the year. So, some of this may change come summer, but I still thought Rookie of the Split was a good idea for us to at least talk about. And I love Masu. I think Masu is really good. But we have been waiting, anticipating, and I don't know, just getting excited generally for, well, General Sniper, who is now Sniper, the brother of Viper. He has been in Challenger for forever, it seems like. And he has worked his way up at every level, been a standout player each time, even on teams that maybe weren't necessarily very good, which I think, not to spoil too much about our power rankings, I think 100 Thieves are going to kind of fit into that level. So with River there in the jungle with him, and Top getting a lot more attention during the offseason, potentially even being a little bit OP potentially in this first patch. I'm hoping that that'll give Sniper the opportunity to really be a focal point for 100 Thieves. And I think that he may be a reason for at least a couple of their wins, which in my mind screams potential for Rookie of the Split. So that's what I ended up going with. Nick, I think Masu might be the safer and arguably better choice, but I was feeling spicy, and I wanted to pick Sniper.
No,
So
I see where you're going for there. I think that even if 100 Thieves has less success than FlyQuest, there's a good argument that Sniper's going to be at the nucleus of that
yeah,
success one way or another. I'm a huge River fan, and
yes,
I
I
think that
forgot about
anything
that.
this
Yeah,
team
you are.
does is going to be really through him, and if he can, set up Sniper for success. And you said we've been waiting for this debut forever. It feels like he's been around forever. The kid's
17.
17, 18. Like he's just now competitively eligible for how
Mm-hmm.
long he's been around. So it's not like this is not like one of those rookies where, oh well, he's been developing for 3 years. Let's see how he does. It's like no, he just now is ready. So or not ready. He's just now able to compete at this level. And so I think that's really exciting to where he could be already be ready and had ready for a while. Like you said, he comes from good stock. Viper being his brother. They have another brother in Challenger. I always forget what the tag is,
Oh
but
yeah, you're right. I forgot
that
about
that
that.
that family, man, that family, the top
Hey,
laners. So
they love their League of Legends.
especially top lane.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Okay, with that, let's dive into MVPs. I guess I'll give you mine first this time. I don't think it's going to be a major surprise, but I think that's kind of how MVP voting goes in the LCS, to be honest with you. But it's going to come from, I think, arguably one of the top two teams in Cloud9, and I'm going to pick Blabber to win his next MVP. I think the mid jungle duo is just so important. He consistently makes plays. I argue that he's the best jungler in LCS history already. And I think having Jojo Pune as arguably one of his most mechanically gifted mid laners of all time should only raise his level. And I'm fully expecting him to just play out of his freaking mind and be yeah, making maybe some crabber plays here and there, but I think for the most part, he's going to be absolutely excellent. And I think we saw a lot of that through most of the year last year as well.
That's fair. I'm going to go Cloud9 also, but I'm going to go with Berserker. I think
Oh,
MVP. You say that's kind of the way MVP voting's gone. It's like, well, it's really gone that way since he got here
sure.
because Cloud9's been good and he's never not been good. I'll go out and say that while he can't match the legacy of anyone in the LCS, if we're talking pure actual skill level, I don't think there's ever been a better player on the LCS stage, individually speaking, than Berserker. I think he's just phenomenal. And he's constantly the highest performer. I think that obviously Blabber as a jungler has influence, takes over games. Blabber's incredible. I'm glad that they kept those two guys for this roster, and I do think that the adding JoJo to this team is just absolutely terrifying. And I think as long as Berserker and Vulcan can be on the same page, though, I think Berserker gets another MVP award and just continues to stack those as Cloud9, takes a victory lap, so to speak.
No, I love that. I think you're absolutely right, and I think we're both just hoping at this point Cloud9 isn't last year's FlyQuest, uh, and
Oh
that
God.
would be a nightmare. But yeah, okay, we got to do our all pros really quickly too. First teams. We'll just start in the top lane. I'm gonna give you mine, and this one was a bit of a struggle for me. I think the top lane is pretty volatile, to be honest with you, but there's a one player who is consistently really solid year in and year out when there's a lot of question marks, especially surrounding that role. And I'm gonna give my first All Pro to Impact. It just seems like he's aging like a fine wine. The man just knows how to win and be successful in the top lane. And even with last year, I think being a little bit more of a down year than he expected, I think being back on Team Liquid is going to do a lot for him. I think playing with Umti is going to be insane as well. And I think, APA and Yon are going to do enough to where Impact's not going to be overly focused. And I think, like I said, I think top lane's going to be a really powerful role, at least in Spring Split. So I think giving him the tools to even be better than what he was, just based on the way that the game is naturally going, it's hard for me not to choose Impact.
Fair enough. I would say the best top laner in North America right now is Licorice, who's not on an LCS team, sadly.
That's a
So
good
best
shout
top
out. That's
laner
a
in
fair shout out.
LCS. I mean, I really have a hard time not giving it to. I mean, giving it to anyone but Dokla, right? I mean, he's
Okay.
coming off of his first title. He showed a level of versatility and a level of clutch that evaded him earlier in the year
Mm-hmm.
and last year on CLG when they were close to making a run for Worlds. They were only one game away from winning a best of five that would have put them in the match for the third seed. Um, so I think that it's tough for me not to give to him when I thought that he really improved on all aspects of his game.
Mm-hmm.
His team won the title, and I thought that he was able to replicate that for the most part on an international level, which is the thing that we've seen NA top players struggle a lot with. But he took it to Broken Blade just fine, and I mean he even had good laning phases at Worlds against teams that destroyed NRG. I mean even against the Shy, he was able to hold his own, and we know how hard that can be. So I think I have to give it to Dokla just because I do think Licorice is better, but I mean he's not here. So Dokla for me, I think that I love the Impact pick. I still had Impact as like a top three top laner, even on
Sure.
ninth place FlyQuest. I don't think he was part of the problem, but I have to give it to Dokla for recency. He was on the international stage. He did do well. I think he's definitely earned my vote.
I love that. I think it was between him, Impact, and Fudge for me, just because I think Fudge has really found a level of consistency as well that people don't give him credit for. So I wanted to give him a quick shout out as well. I'll do mine really quickly here. I've already talked enough about Blabber. I think he's going to be a pretty clear and concise first team All Pro. I'll say very quickly, and hopefully I'm not stealing this. I love Inspired. I think Inspired is one of the best players NA has ever seen, honestly, as well in terms of just talent. I know we're not talking about legacy, but I'm just talking about purely just watching him, win MVPs in both leagues and just be, I think, really great. Was sad to have to see him take some time off, but I'm really glad that he's back. And I think honestly, a lot of this team was built around him. And I think kudos to Papa Smithy and FlyQuest for recognizing that. But yeah, I just wanted to give him a quick shout, even though I'm not picking him. But what about you, Nick? Who do you got?
I'm kind of like I'm with you, right? I think that I'm a huge Inspired fan. I think he's really really great player, but I mean we haven't seen him play in 8 months, right?
Yep.
I don't think that means he's going to be bad, but I have trouble voting him like first All Pro when we haven't seen him play. This is a brand new team. Blabber is with familiar territory, with upgrades and familiar stars. I mean, I think that Blabber is clearly like the best jungler in North America right now. Even looking around the other top teams, I really, really like Contracts. I think he's really good. I also think that his strengths are weaponized properly for NRG.
I agree.
I think that if he's not, even though he's not the best pound for pound jungler in the league, he can be for that team's identity. He's great. Like NRG would be a worse team with Blabber in their lineup, for example. But I think pound for pound, Blabber's the best jungler in the league. I don't think that's changing anytime soon.
I love that. I think that's such an interesting take about Blabber and NRG. Maybe we'll have to do a show on that one these days, kind of mixing things up and seeing how they would do on certain teams. But okay, let's head to the mid lane. Who do you got in the mid lane?
I mean, it's JoJo, right? I mean,
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say
he
I don't know
was
how much we need to dive into
absolutely
it.
otherworldly in summer. I mean, I thought EG as a whole was pretty underrated in summer amidst all their problems and stuff. I mean, I'm a big Revenge fan, and I thought they actually got to show what he could do on a good team. But JoJo was the clear that was a JoJo PM team,
No
and
doubt.
he deservedly won MVP. I'm very happy that he won it. I know a lot of people wanted Blabber or Berserker to win it. It's like you have two guys on a top team. JoJo pulled so much weight for Evil Geniuses, and
Yeah.
I think that with this team, I mean, I think it could take some more time to gel because also, especially JoJo is now very used to like, all right, I got to put my carry pants on. Like if I don't completely pop off like the game's lost, whereas season they don't need him to do that. Not every
No.
game.
No.
So, but I mean, it's very clear. I mean, he's incredible, and I think that he will continue to be incredible on Cloud9.
I have JoJo as well, and I can't disagree with anything you said. I'm when I saw that he was signing with Cloud9, I literally texted one of my buddies that I watch LCS with sometimes. I was like, well, Cloud9 are just unbeatable. It would seem right now, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But I'm not gonna disagree with you on any of that. I'm gonna give a dark horse candidate though. I don't know if he's
Sure.
going to be first team All Pro, but I do think Insanity showed something last year that he's very adaptable, and I would not be surprised to see him get some more votes for being somewhere in the All Pro teams. I know that Shopify Rebellion is probably not going to be high up on most people's lists, but as a former TSM fan, I watched a lot of his games, like well, all of them, I should say. I didn't miss one, and I was just really impressed with what he was able to do when the rest of his team was not as talented around him. And I actually had really thought he was pretty solid when he had his first go around with Immortals as well, and was always really confused why he never got another chance. So I'm really glad to see him getting another one. And I listen, he's not going to end up being first team All Pro. It would take a lot. I mean, he'd have to be like JoJo level MVP, I think, to get first team All Pro. But I did want to give him a shout out since you said already a bunch of beautiful words about JoJo.
No, I'm glad you did, and I agree with you. I think Insanity was quietly pretty strong on that Immortals roster that nobody
Mhm.
cared about, and then he didn't get a chance. I think because that team didn't do well. He was great last year on TSM. He pulled so much weight. I audibly exhaled when I saw that he was getting retained by
Me
Shopify
too.
Rebellion because he so deserves that spot. And I think that if we see that team exceed expectations, it'll be because we've seen a new level for Insanity even better than last year. Any success they have, it's going to be something to do with that guy, I think.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Okay, we gotta get through these last two really quickly here. I'm just gonna give mine both together just for the bot lane. I
Sure.
think Berserker Vulcan, pretty easy choice for me. I think they're both at the top of their game, and I also think they're the best in their position. I do think FBI Huhi has a chance to push them, but I really think that that's the only other duo I could see pushing for that top spot, at least initially. So, what else do you have to add? Feel free to jump in, but for me, it's just
Yeah.
Berserker Vulcan. I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I've already said I think Berserker's the best like player pound for pound in the LCS.
Yep.
So he's clearly my AD carry pick. If we're valuing them on duos, though, I may have to go NRG in the short term because I do have
Okay.
Huhi as my all pro support. I do think Vulcan's ceiling is higher, especially individually, and I don't think he was the reason FlyQuest struggled in summer necessarily. But I can't go if I'm going to pick him or the guy who, found yet another team to lead to the promised land and make yeah, GG fell off a little bit, but I mean, who he was such a big part of their
He was the
success last
driver,
year.
no doubt.
He's now back with like NRG losing Ignar. I thought was a real bummer, and then I think they got the best possible replacement. They might have gotten better,
I actually think
and
they
I
did.
think yeah, and like so I can't not give it to Hui, especially when I thought that even though I'd say his individual support play is the least valuable tool, like the least valuable thing he brings to a team. But even then, I think he had his best individual level of play support as a support last year, and all of the other things, intangibles he brings to the table were still there. It's a new team for him, but sort of not really. He's back with FBI. That's a familiar territory. It's familiar territory. For now, he's the support to beat, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely have Huhi right there too. I just think Vulcan Berserker being together, I think, is going to be enough for a lot of people to push Vulcan up to the top, and I do believe that. But I will say I've like pushed for Huhi on multiple different shows, multiple different times. He is very much my number two, and I'd be fine with him being number one. All right, we're gonna hop into our power rankings. You guys can see this here. Well, actually, not very well. Let me zoom in on that really quickly, maybe if I can. Did that? There we go. Okay, I got it. So, we were consensus, actually, completely agreement. Like, we did not talk about this at all, but we had Cloud9, NRG, TL, and FlyQuest all in that order. I think we'll talk maybe about that just very briefly, but I want to start with our bottom four, where I had 100 Thieves at 5, Shopify Rebellion at 6, Immortals at 7, Dignitas at 8. You had Dignitas at 5, Shopify Rebellion in the same spot, 100 Thieves at 7, and Immortals at 8. I think the two biggest things we need to talk about in our brief time, unfortunately, is we got to figure out what the difference is that you're seeing with Dignitas compared to me, because I am definitely not as high up on them as you are, and I'd love to know what you're seeing with them.
I see for finally, I see actual focus on this roster. I don't necessarily know if I agree with every individual signing, but I think the team itself has a cohesive. This is a Rich team. This team
Yep.
is made to help Rich win games, and I think that Rich can win enough games in spring on his own. I mean, with help, but like they can play League of Rich enough times in spring for that to work enough times for them to make playoffs. This is very well much a team that could be in third or fourth place in week 3 and barely get to playoffs with a 500 record. I'm not saying that they're going to be world beaters, but I'm saying they're going to get better. I'm saying that in spring, I think that they will be the best of the bottom teams. I think that very well, 100 Thieves, given some time, could definitely surpass them by the end of spring, or definitely, I think summer, 100 Thieves could be a better team. But I have Dig there now because I think up front, pre-development, as far as the bottom four goes, they have the easiest equation to figure out, and it's playing with it's familiar territory, right? Like we saw Rich individually win a handful of games for Dig last year. They're going to do that enough times to be the fifth best team.
Okay. I think that that's entirely fair. I will say I just don't have as much faith in Rich as you do. Uh, I think he fell off really hard once teams started to focus him, and I worry that, you know, Dove and Tomo won't be able to really pick up the slack enough. I also really worry about Isles. I've not ever really been overly impressed with Isles, and I think him being back on this team gives me a little bit of anxiety, to be honest with you, especially when players like Chime were still out there. I think you put Chime on this roster, and I think it's a lot better, to be completely honest with you. Not trying to pull a TSM bias. I really genuinely have always felt like Chime was really good. So a little disappointed to see that he wasn't on a team, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh yeah, he had a very strong he had a strong year last year, but he also has very specific
We,
like he's a roamer,
yeah,
and Dig lost a lot of games through the bot lane laning phase,
that's fair.
and that was a lot of that was before Tomo was in, and at no fault of Tomo. But
Yeah.
I see what they're going for, but I also agree with you. I think it's criminal that Chime's not on an LCS team this year.
Well, I appreciate it. I guess I'll give my quick love for 100 Thieves. I just, the same way I think you feel about Huhi and the way he elevates a team is the way that I have felt like River has as well. Yes, he has unending aggression that can be a problem, right? But I think on the right team and one that's clearly going to be listening directly to him, it feels like, right? As he's going to be, I think, the undisputed leader on that team. I really think that that gives him an opportunity to kind of be the guy and allow these young players to kind of build around him. And that is interesting to me because I also think the raw talent of the newer and younger players is stronger than most of the rest of this bottom four, which I think we both agree that there's a very clear separation between top four and bottom four. So I think that that's just really where I come from with 100 Thieves. And again, I really do believe in players like not General Sniper anymore, sorry, Sniper, where I think that he's going to be able to be a lot stronger than most people would imagine. So, yeah, I guess any thoughts on the 100 Thieves
Yes, yeah,
team as
I hear
well?
you there, and I hope so. I like River. I'm glad to see Golden Blue back in the LCS in his first
Agreed.
head coach position in the LCS. I think he did a great job with this guys last year. So I'm excited for that. Um, but we remembered River on Dig. He was kind of in a similar position, kind of the guy to make everything happen. That's not necessarily. I think it's where he thrives stylistically. But if you talk
Sure.
to him, that's he was such a great player on Jarvan, has always been, at
Yeah.
least since he got to the LCS. He's not. He's like, oh, I don't just play Jarvan. I asked him about this when he was like 7-0 on it for Dig, and he was like, oh well, it's just that's what the team needs to play team fights properly. Like I don't I think that he has the tools to be the guy to lead this team. I don't know if he likes to be that guy, if when he's the only guy. I think he did a lot better on Golden Guardians where he had some other veterans. I do think that he is a cerebral player and a great sort of leader of tempo, but I don't know how much he is of like a leader through and through, like, in the way that who he was essentially asked by his organization last year to, like, hey, be a leadership figure for this team, like
Sure.
outside of the game. Like
Yeah.
he told that was a conversation that he had with Golden Guardians management, right? Um, I don't know if River is that guy off the rift.
That's fair.
But I hope so. And like I said, I'm very, very, very big on him as a player. And I would love to be wrong. I hope 100 Thieves wins all 18 games. Honestly, I'd be so happy for I'd be so happy for River and Golden Glue. Honestly, so but I think if they're going to do anything, I just think it's going to need a little bit more time. I don't have them. A lot of people just have them straight up eighth. I don't think they're eighth. That's for
I don't think
sure.
so at all. No.
But I can't put them outside of bottom two until I see a bit more. Also, I think.
No, I completely agree, and hopefully we'll have more time. I think in the future to really see what happens. Obviously, we'll have games to go through as well. I'm gonna quickly run through our picks that are I think the same for this week. We have TL winning the first game of the split. Immortals winning game 4 against Dignitas TL over 100 Thieves, I believe. We also have Team Liquid winning over. Sorry, I got to go look real quick. Shopify. Cloud9 taking out 100 Thieves, FlyQuest beating Immortals, and NRG taking out Dig. Where we differ is specifically, and I think most importantly, in the NRG C9 game, and then in the FlyQuest Shopify Rebellion game. We don't have time really, I don't think, to focus on the FlyQuest Shopify Rebellion game. I think the C9 NRG game is where things are most interesting, and I'd love to know
Yeah,
why
let's
you
focus
think.
on the big one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we see a game like this every single opening weekend. It's a C9 is the better team on paper. I'm not arguing with that.
no,
But the other team has played together. The cores played together for longer. Their new player has essentially married to their AD carry. And I think that in a best of one format, first weekend of the year, we saw. I think C9 is going to be out of the gate strong. I don't think they'll be the best team in the league until about week 5. I think that
Really?
energy
Okay.
with their previous style, I don't think it's going to come together right away. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're probably going to be second place. I think they're going to lose one game to NRG and probably win the next 8 games, right? Like,
Sure,
but
I
I
can
do
see
think
that.
in week 1, I give that match to NRG. Second round robin, come back to me. I think Cloud9 probably wins it. But I think right now, I give it to NRG. We're in a new season, new meta, new teammates coming in. Like I said, JoJo makes sense on this team in theory in terms of his style. He's not going to be used to having a team this stacked. I mean, even if we're talking purely talent, like not even EG at their best was this insane.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
um, so I think there's gonna be a little bit of growing pains. I think still the individual talent is enough to where it's not going to matter for most teams. But I think NRG is the other that those are the clear top two, and I think the NRG does there. I do favor them for week 1.
So the only argument I'm going to make, and while I do really like NRG as a team, like a lot, to be clear, that's why they're second on my power rankings. I would normally agree with you because I think moving pieces generally do take a lot more time to kind of adapt. But I think JoJo's shown the ability, one, to adapt and be whatever his team needs already, which I think is only going to be more pronounced on Cloud9. But also, Vulcan has played with every player on the team except for Berserker, and Berserker was able to make it work with Sven with very little issue. Imagine having Vulcan, who's has I think a similar style to Berserker and has a similar mindset. And I think they're just gonna click right away. And he's already played with JoJo on EG. He's played with Blabber on and Fudge on C9. So I feel like those connections will have already been kind of I don't know, reconnected. And I think the one with Berserker is going to be a very quick and easy one because they made the move so early in the offseason that they've had a lot of time to play together. I think they've had a lot of time to adapt with each other. I think they're both really hard workers, and I think they're both just generally really strong players. And yeah, like super teams don't always work out, whatever, but I think that this one's a little different where I could genuinely see them not losing a single game this split. I just don't think it's going to take them very long to come together. And, I think if NRG does win this game, I don't think it's a huge deal overall for their overall arc for the season. But like, it will take a lot to have me pick against Cloud9. Like they'll have to have the kind of epic failing that FlyQuest had. And if they did, then we are going to really need to question Vulcan and see what the heck's going on where these super teams that he's on are just really faltering in a major way. So I think that's really the biggest parts of those games. FlyQuest, like I said, and Shopify Rebellion, I think big surprise. I actually just picked them because I think the Boogie and Sanity duo are more used to playing with each other. I think they might come out and just surprise them. That was just kind of my surprise pick for the week, where I just had a gut
I hear you.
feeling that they maybe could pull that game out. But
I mean, I think it's entirely possible for the same reasons as the NRG C9 one. Just to touch on it really quickly,
that's
and
fair.
FlyQuest,
Okay.
we have a new team coming together. Bleepo hasn't played competitively in what, a year?
Yeah.
Inspired hasn't played competitively in 8 months. We have five brand new players who haven't played together before in any capacity, not even on previous teams. And while Shopify's a new org, some of those players have played together. Revan's coached some of those guys before.
That's
Again,
fair.
it's the same thing. I think that is Shopify a better team than FlyQuest on paper? No. Will they be a more put together team on day 1 or day 2? Yeah, I think it's entirely likely. I still vote with FlyQuest, but I think it's a very close matchup, and I don't think there's anything. I think it's probably about 50-50 right now. I will say one thing that I know that we're probably over time here, but I do want to touch on one thing with the Cloud9 thing. I agree with
Yeah.
you on. I do think Berserker and Vulcan by the end of this, even spring, I think, not even the year, will be the best bot lane in the league. I mean, they're can't say enough about those guys as individual talents. What I can say about Sven is, while he has never been and never, I think, will be, just given his the way that he learned the role, as good of an individual support as Vulcan. We have to remember that Sven, not only a former AD carry who understands the needs of a young AD carry, but also he essentially learned the role for Berserker when you think about it, right? Like he's not as good as Vulcan, but he became a support because and was comfortable doing it because of how good Berserker was.
That's fair.
And those
That's
guys
fair.
wanted to stay together on that team. I think there's something to be said for a. I mean, clearly there's a ceiling there, right? Like
Yeah.
just support, just being Berserker's back pocket is not. We saw it doesn't work enough on the international stage. He's getting outclassed as a support player, but I mean, I think there's something to be said. Like, look at FlyQuest last year. Like, they were at their best when they were had the guy in there that supported Prince the best, and that was Winsome, who was probably a worse support individually than Ayla and Vulcan, but spoke the guy's language and really got the most out of him. Now, I'm not saying that's the way you want to construct a roster, but what I am saying is that as good as Vulcan is, and as much synergy as I think that those guys will develop, I don't think there's like this thing where like, oh, Vulcan can't play with a support that speaks a different language. Berserker also does have decent English, as does Prince, by the way.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's anything like that there, but I also do think like I think that it's going to be important to see like how much Berserker, a young player in a new region, these last couple years, how much Sven was a comfort sort of thing for him, because I think that that is a big factor in his success. I think he can still be a good player, but I do think that it's going to be. Um, I think that the adjustment might take a little longer than you think it might, at least in my
Okay.
opinion.
Well, I mean, I'm open to it, honestly. I mean, I think it makes things a lot more interesting if C9 don't just stomp through the LCS right away. But
Yeah, again, I'm
um,
not saying this
I
this like I'm saying this team is still great. Like I think like I'm just saying that I have them at like I think 15-3, while you have them at 18-0. That's the only thing I'm saying.
no, and I love that, and I think that that's the kind of fun conversation that we can obviously have on this show, which you and I have had behind the scenes many, many times. So
Yes, yeah,
uh,
that's probably deserving of its own time slot. I probably went a little over time there, so
no, 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 you're good. No, I appreciate it, and I guess we'll spend 2 minutes here on. And I'm sorry I'm using a lot of time stuff here. I do have an appointment after this. That's why I'm rushing this one a little bit more than we will normally. But what I will say is we got to pick our LCS champions before the season starts. Otherwise we're just watching the first games and we're getting influenced by that. So, Nick, who do you think is ultimately going to win the spring split?
Cloud9, no contest.
Okay. I'm in the same boat. I don't know that there's a whole lot to dive into. I just think they're the best team right now. I think if there are two teams that I think can actually really compete with them, I think we have the top four, but I really do believe that TL, I think, are going to be a lot better than people think they are. Despite all the APA slander that I'm tired of as a fellow Ohioan, I do not appreciate that. But I also think, obviously, that NRG are, I think, the very clear second. I think you could almost make three tiers of teams where you have, Cloud9, NRG, and then you have FlyQuest and TL in their own, and then you have everybody else. So
I think that's
um,
fair. I think that's completely fair. With
yeah,
especially at the beginning of the season, the C9 energy kind of at the top, and then I think C9 maybe gets into their own tier above that. But yeah,
I
I think that
agree.
yeah, I think NRG in the finals probably, but I think C9 takes it probably 3-0 at that point, unless there's something that goes catastrophically wrong. That being said, like I wouldn't say it's a huge surprise if NRG like happens to win in an upset. I mean, like it'd be less surprising than it was last year.
I agree.
But I also think Cloud9's a much better team than last year. So, and I also like TL, like you said. I think TL had a really smart offseason.
I
I
agree.
know they didn't get everything they wanted, but they essentially built like Korea TL, like TL Korea 2.0, with a more stable, stylistically speaking, top laner
Mm-hmm.
and a jungler who already knows English more than Pioshik did. So it's like the same idea, but let's get slightly better pieces. Like these are better fits, even if Summit and Pioshik are great individual players. So I do think they're the clear. I think they're definitely probably the team that outside of NRG is most likely to contest C9 for that spot.
Yeah, I wish we had more time to talk about TL specifically because that team interests me
Me too. Me
greatly.
too.
Greatly. But I'm sure we'll be able to on later shows. We'll be able to, like I said, dive in a little bit more once we've seen some of the games as well and kind of talk about what we've been seeing. But I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. Please let us know in the comment section below what you think of our power rankings, our picks, how wrong you think we're going to be. We always we love the banter, despite what I have said previously. And yeah, with that, we'll catch you guys on the next one.